yet.
That's right.
And it takes money and sacrifice.
And I agree with that, people.
You know what? Y'all gonna have to apologize for all of it.
That's
The
why my
audio
two belt,
was not on.
two
They
belt
was supposed
just
to call
tried
you.
calling. He did call.
He called you.
He
That's why
called,
he was
yeah.
calling you.
So what our lips
we
moving, but
apologize.
nothing.
That's why we can
No,
edit that out. We edit
That's
that out.
it. We got
Yeah.
it
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
All right, good deal.
I edit it later.
People, I want to apologize for that. The Dice Man, you know, he's doing an excellent job, and we're not. Hey, he's not 66 like me, but human error. He made a mistake, so Two Belt was trying to call me. So we just had an excellent conversation that we're going to have to start all over again. What we were talking about when you saw my lips moving, I was talking, TC asked me, did I treat my children the same? And I said, when I didn't know any better, I did not. But now that I know better, I done came on a plane now, what I call coming into the full knowledge of the truth. It's where we learn to subdue our passion, and we try to get oneness with ourselves, with our ancestors. Some of you out there said oneness with God, but all of it points to one thing: it's knowledge of truth and understanding. That's our truth and understanding, not the Mexicans, not the Hispanics, not the Caucasians, not the Israelis, not anyone. It's ours, and we got to do that. And what Derek and I, I apologize there for Dice Man, but the Dice Man TC and I, we had a discussion last night, and he was telling me, and I'm fixing to tell you, he said the population was higher. I was pointing out how at 12% of the U.S. population, the fastest growing age group is from the age of 13 and 24. And of that group, 41% of that group are black people who only constitute 12% of the total U.S. population. And then when you look at the total people that are infected with HIV in the United States, 54% of those people are people of color, black folks, which is a very high number for us to only be 12% of the population. And that's where the Dice Man came in and said, well, they never told us the truth. And so now I want Dice Man to say what he said, and then we're going to let TC come in with a different perspective on that, and then we're going to let Richard speak. Dice Man?
Okay, well, I was just telling you that I was hearing that we were 12 and 13% back when I was in high school. There's no way 30-some years later we're still at the same number. Doesn't add up. Didn't add up then, matter of fact. So we get a lot of numbers telling us we're overpopulating the prisons. It's too many of us in the prisons and things like that. But at the same time, they're not taking into account those of us who are not in prison, those of us who are not dead.
That's right.
It's just a lot to it. Numbers are changed around to create certain statistics so that people get to manipulate people's minds to make the outcome that they want to. And that's as far as I'll go with that for now.
And then that's when TC came in and said that it doesn't really matter. So TC, tell us, and then welcome to the show, TC.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking about the number doesn't really matter if, the African American community spends trillions of dollars a year in this country. We spend trillions of dollars in American, currency. If not trillions, billions, most definitely billions of dollars in consumer dollars. So if we could then take that 12% of people, whether it's higher or whether it's lower, right? We can take that 12% of people to spend our money the proper way with each other, for each other, where to benefit each other. Then we can control some of these markets. Instead of being a consumer base, we can be an owner base.
That's right.
So the numbers matter with the dollar, not necessarily with the reproduction piece. In my opinion.
And that's right. It's like the thing where we vote. If we control the court, we can control what's going on in the court system. And so another thing you said is that we should put our money in black banks. Take that money and talk to the people what you said about that.
Okay, so the first phase would be, when you receive your currency, when you receive your paycheck or however you get your money, then you spend your money with black businesses. And then those black businesses then in turn bank with the African American owned bank. And then that bank, that financial institution, then turns around and says, okay, we can give you the financing that you need, the proper financing, the educational pieces you need about credit, so we can bridge this this wealth gap, you know. And it's a lot of components that come along with that. A lot of times we talk about the spending your money black, but then what happens? Once I spend my money with the black business, then what are they supposed to do? Then in turn, they're supposed to bank black. Then when they bank black, then that banking institution will get those same funds that we dump into the banks on Monday morning, you know, and they can use those funds and allocate it to us to benefit us in long term.
And Richard, you had something to say about that. So, but I want to say this, people, is that it really does make a difference. I had a person tell me that my heart was so forgiving that if I was sent in to say collect money or kill someone, that if that person started begging for their life, that I probably wouldn't kill them. You know what? That was a pretty good assessment, because that is true. If I was going to hurt somebody, whether it's kick them out their house or anything that's adverse in them, and they start begging me and start pleading, whether they're pleading for their life or pleading for their livelihood, I wouldn't do it. That's not in me. But how about it's in them to do that? It's in them to do that. So how can we take our money that's for us and put it in their banks when they have that type of heart? They don't have that forgiving heart. They're not conditioned to look out for us. They're conditioned to destroy not only us, everything and everybody they come in contact with, and take everybody else's history and make it theirs. And that's what it is. His story, his lie, however you want to say it. When I said coming to the full knowledge of the truth, when I didn't know any better, I'm on the plane now where I've came into the full knowledge of the truth. I'm talking about my truth. I'm not talking about their truth. I'm not talking about the Mexican truth. I'm not talking about anybody's truth. I'm talking about black people truth. And until we do that, we're going to continue to be oppressed, and we're going to continue to do it without, and we're going to continue to promote and support other people's ideas and agendas at the expense of our own. Lofton, how you doing today?
Pretty good, sir.
And this is Richard Lofton. Tell the people's hello, and what do you have to say about that?
How you doing?
Fine.
I think like this. We need to start training ourselves on what we need and what we need for ourselves and our children. If you don't create work and jobs for yourself, who you going to look to for jobs and for work? Until you change the thinking pattern of your own selves to create work, jobs for your children, you create a problem. This is one thing that hurts me so bad when I think about it, because I look at us as being locked up a lot of times. You lose a lot of power, voting power, things like that. And that's one thing that the trick is played on you to keep you from using your power to get money, jobs, businesses. And a lot of time, because of a record, they will not loan you money. And see, when you start doing for yourselves and create your own, you can always go to yourselves and have what you need. You got to sacrifice some of your money to help your family and your children and your society, your community. If you don't do this, you will always be behind, and always the game is played on you. If you had got one more bail, you would have got out of the hole. No, you always in the hole because you don't use the pencil and you don't have the means to get what you need.
And I want to make a comment, because earlier you used a key word, man. You said we need to invest in ourselves and in our children. And that's a key component, man.
That's right.
We must invest in ourselves and invest in our children.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think we're the only race of people that destroy our own kind. It's just like an old dog, and I'm not going to use the word, but I sure almost said it. Begin with a B. It's like an old dog. When an old dog have a little puppy, they eat them up. That's what we do. We're not old dog. We're not a dog, period. We're destroying our own children. And I got to talk about the Constitution of 1890. You heard me talk about that. And the whole thing was designed to keep Negroes out of politics. But not only that, black people had to be able to, whatever the county clerk came up with, had to be able to read and write, had to pay a poll tax, had to be able to maybe recite the entire Constitution, anything to get us off the poll or to keep from registering to vote. But guess who was able to vote? That minister. It didn't put in their color any minister that had been preaching for 6 months. You don't have to show verification. I've been a preacher for how long you been a preacher? I've been a preacher for 6 months. I've been a preacher for 6 years. It could have been 6 days, but if they stayed there and they were able to vote, you see where I'm going with that. Not only that, when they had the race riot, the Meridian race riot of 1871, the sheriff of Lauderdale County went to the local churches and talked to the black ministers to get them to disarm. Google it, read this stuff. I'm not lying to you. Got them, and those people like me would not disarm. But you had most people did. And people like me and like Dice, like Richard, like TC, we were killed. And see, and that's the very reason why so many people are proud. I'm gonna have to let you take over right here, TC, because you said it so well. So just tell the people about that. So they got us to disarm, and then within the week, they went and burnt down all the businesses and killed all these black people. That's when they're buried there in Macklemore Cemetery. So you see how they go to the ministers, and they're still doing that to this day, because our ministers will take all our money and put in their banks. And you just heard TC said, hey, he grew up in a church. They have their own school. They have their own bank. They only use this bank to filter money to their bank. When they built, I don't even know how much their new school cost. I got to say it must have cost about $10 million. They didn't borrow any money from anybody. Hey, hold up. They bought engineer, female. She was black, educated. I don't know where she got her education from, but I know she was a black engineer, and she came here and drew the plans. Came out of Chicago somewhere. Then we had I forgot his name, but him and I was in Germany together. He's living in Florida now, but he came up here to do something else. Man, I love that. Why is it that our people can't do that? They're not going to show us any kind of respect. I had a job.
But because of that example, because of that example coming up, and because of those men that were a part of my life, and because of the system that was created, then that's why I always speak about group economics.
Right.
Because I saw how us working together collectively created an empire.
And it did that, people.
It created an empire. And not only did it create an empire, but it created generations of children after us. Children I don't even know that attend that facility now that are benefiting from the people that worked 20, 30, 40, 50 and sacrificed years ago for them. And now their life is easier. It's the same thing when we talk about the civil rights movement. I mean, when you have people to invest, like you said earlier, to invest in themselves and invest in their children, the future looks brighter.
And people, it does. I can tell you this, and I know this factually, that they wrote off $500,000. Tell me what black church around here in the state of Mississippi that can write off $500,000. They walked away from it like it was nothing because they didn't want. You can maybe explain it. And folks, I got to tell you this. This is the church that's on Old Marion Road. Now, when I was growing up, it was white folks who went there. But once, you know that part of that white flight, when we started closing in and casing up on them, then they sold that to somebody. And that's one of the best things. I don't know who idea it was, but it has. I mean, I wish the other, instead of getting mad at me or getting angry at anything I'm saying, won't you look at my message? If you really care about your people, man, I'm so sick of everybody, all you people going to these Baptist churches and all these other kind of churches. I don't care. You're kissing the pastor's ring. That pastor is not God. You're treating him like God, and you think you can buy your way to heaven or wherever it is that you say that you think you're going. You eating your children. We're eating our children. We're destroying our children. We're not doing anything for our children, and that's sad. TC, Richard,
Yeah.
either one of you.
Well, go ahead, Mr. Richard.
What you're saying is true. A lot of times your leaders, my daughter, this is something that in my past, had a problem with her mother. And this lawyer told me to get a petition. Everybody knows me. And he explained to me if I don't do this, my daughter was going to have to spend more time in jail or in prison than she would have to. And he told me to go get especially ministers, the power. Ministers has power over a lot of situations. And that's what they look forward to. Ministers controlling other situations. And that's what I did, get a lot of ministers. So my daughter would not have to spend a lot of time in prison. She would have to stay there longer, but she was able to come home to me. And a lot of times they don't agree with you because they don't understand you. But now she has children of her own, they begin to understand what you was going through. This is the key. Yeah. Your children has to know what you've been through to be able to look out for this, that. When you tell them something, a lot of time they will not listen to you. But later on they will, because they see the same thing in their children that you was trying to tell them about them. That's the key. They gotta be trained to look forward to a future of their own.
Well, we have a caller, and we're gonna take this call. Caller, you on the podcast with the family. I can't hear you.
Craig,
Go ahead, we can hear you now.
you can hear me on the podcast?
Yes, I can hear you on the podcast.
Okay, my name is Dolores. I'm calling from. Can you hear me?
Turn your background music down, Dolores.
Hello?
I can hear you.
All right, we can hear you.
We can hear you, but we can't hear you now. Call a call back, and what I want to say to this, whenever you call in, turn your podcast down so we don't pick up that background music. So hang up, Dice Man.
We're just talking to them through their phone. That's all they need.
Yeah, all you need to do is just talk to us. When you call us, talk to us through your phone. And when you do that, turn your volume down, and you'll be able to see it. It's kind of delayed anyway. But we had a pretty good conversation, and just the main thing is what we see here is we see so much money leaving our community going into other communities to benefit them and not benefit us. I got to talk about this administration a little bit, guys. Did you guys know that most of the department head, almost all of the department head under this administration are Republicans? And then like such as Laura Carmichael, I was told that her husband is the founder of the Republican part of Lauderdale County. So we had this going on where we've elected a Democratic mayor, and also he's appointed 3 white peoples over our school board. Again, I'm caring and I understand my children, people, but they're not going to understand our children. Our children are just unique children. And one of the things I'm saying is that we going to keep having sex. We going to breed. But they don't really care to have children until they about 40, so they ain't got about 1 or 2 children left in them. I don't mean to be derogatory or try to disparage anyone, but I'm just telling the truth. I went. It was a situation this weekend where I had to go to Mr. Hobson, and people. I want one of you guys to talk while I. Whether it's UTC or either one of you, I want one of you guys to talk and just talk to the people while I pull up this law that I'm gonna tell you guys about. I had a little incident this weekend I want to talk about.
All
All right. A lot of times we get sidetracked on statistics. They use statistics to throw you off of what you believe that is going to take place. And if you're not careful, they will use statistics to make you think this is going on, but it's not. A lot of your news is not true. They will tell you part of it, but they will never tell you the full amount of what's really taking place. And because of these tricks and games they play on us, they manipulate your mind. They manipulate your mind to think how they want you to act and what they want you to do for yourself. Not really for yourself. It's mostly for their benefit. You go to school to learn how to use their system to benefit them, to be under them, jobs and things like this. The game is always on us. Always.
Right. I mean, most definitely. I totally agree with, it's up to you. And how you use what you have to make it work.
True.
I remember just a small example when I was a little boy. At my church, we would fast and pray, right? And a lot of times people would say, you're too young. You're only in the 2nd grade or 3rd grade or whatnot. It's cruel for your parents to make you fast and pray or whatnot. But because I had a clear understanding of what that was supposed to mean for me, right, from the adults in my space, and I believe them, I trust them wholeheartedly, then I was able to have the discipline to fast and pray during that time. Even though all my classmates, even though I had to go to the cafeteria, even though the food was in my face, even though the drink was there, you know what I mean? I still had the discipline and clear understanding because I trusted the people that loved me, which were the adults in my space. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing with our children. I mean, they trust the adult in their space. Yeah. So what you tell them, teach them, show them, allow them to watch on television, allow them to hear on the radio, allow them to read, whatever the case may be, they're trusting that you are giving them the proper information. And you take that and you run with it. No matter what, man. I mean, I remember like the Pledge of Allegiance in school. I didn't stand for the pledge. And man, I had teachers that would put me out of the classroom, and I didn't mind whatever the consequence was because I trusted the people in my space to say, look, if you're gonna stand for something, stand for it wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And so you must believe that your children are looking at you and viewing you the same way. If you tell them it's okay to do something,
Yeah.
trust me, because you love them, they're trusting whatever you do. So let's just be careful and be mindful of what we are doing and how we're doing it.
And that is correct. People, I want y'all to see, these are my boys here. Say hey.
Hey.
This is Carter Holt to my right here, and this is Connor Holt to my left. These are my boys, and you know what, people? I show them the same love. Give Daddy a kiss on the feet. See, I show them the same love, but I wanted y'all to see that. I show them the same love and care that I show my daughters. And I'm hands-on with them, and I am careful about what I let them see me do. I'm very careful. Y'all go in the other room and everything, okay? Y'all be good. But people, I want to say this to you guys. And close the door for me, Connor. I want to say this is that I'm not a perfect person. I've done things. You heard me just say I got my felony expunged. But I tell you what, people, I have never, ever let my children see me do anything negative or anything adverse. I promise you that. I have never done anything around my children. I made sure they live like better than the Cosby children. I'm hands-on, and I think I've gotten my blessings because of that. And I gotta say this about the black minister. Don't think I'm beating up on them. They don't know any better, folk. And they bought them off the same way the Emperor Constantine bought off these people in 325 BC. They use money. This same money controlling them now. And so they've been bought off, but they don't know any better. They can't know any better. How you just seen I love my boys. I love my children. I mean, I don't even know what I'd do if anything happened to the least of one of those. I'm just telling you. And these are mine, but how can anybody out there I got brothers out there and sisters that's probably watching this, and I know they love me, but I promise you they don't love my children as much as I do. So how can we take somebody outside of our community and expect them to love my children or our children and want them to do better? And ministers, shame on you. You brag and pull your pants up about having $200,000 and $300,000 in these banks, and your wife can't go down there and get a job. They can't get a loan. One of my family members going through this now, where they was approved for a loan, and then they start backpedaling. Wow, because they getting ready to get 12 acres of land, and it's in a community where everybody around there own the land is white folks. And so somebody done call in, don't sell these niggas this land. And so now we want to copy you your tax extension, so many different things, the same way that these white banks did me. So how is it that we can take our money and put it in their banks, and when we want something, we can't get it? Muna, Federal Credit Union, score 780 credit score, and wanted to buy a house, and they disapproved me, and just had approved for my wife to get at that particular time a $35,000 car. And that's sad.
That goes back to us having as far as priorities are concerned, right?
Yeah.
You purchased that car, you drive it off the lot, it's depreciated in value.
Well, we didn't take it.
But the loan was given to you for the car.
Right.
Right? But the loan for ownership is the harder loan to get.
That's right.
Because now you own something, it's tangible.
That's right.
That car, people talk about assets and liabilities, and when you have a clear understanding of what an asset adds to you.
That's right.
A liability is a loss. It's
That's
something
right.
that you have to spend money out
That's right.
for. So they understand that in the banking system. So if I'm going to give you something, give you a loan with a 780 credit score, you can get what you want.
That's right.
Right? So when I give you this loan, I'm giving you this loan for you to be a consumer. But when you give me the loan and you giving it to me to be an owner, that's a whole nother ball game. That changes the next generation. That's creating generational wealth. When you can purchase a home with 12 acres of land on it or whatnot. So, of course, the bank understands that. So, when you own the rule book,
True.
then you can change the rules.
True.
So, now it's time to rewrite it and have our own rule book. and let's figure out how we can work together collectively, man. That is so vital to our survival and our children's survival. Because if somebody in administration can put people over our children that don't have a clear understanding about our children, then it's up to us to find a way to combat that. You know, I remember with taking karate and then boxing or whatnot, you counterpunch, right? So if somebody hit, then you might take a lick to give one. So if we have these people over the administration and they don't necessarily, we feel that they don't necessarily understand what's going on with our children, then we have to counter that with something.
Yeah.
So that means we need more programs, we need more resources, we need more people willing to give up their time and money to invest back into our community. And it doesn't have to benefit the person that you see in the front. It benefits the children if they're doing the real work.
Yeah.
You know. And I think sometimes that's kind of the problem. They feel like, well, if I give you something, then it's going to benefit you. But if you give it to the children for the cause, then that's the end game.
Right.
So that's why the bank was willing to give you a loan for a car
That's right.
than to give you a loan for a house.
And now the amount of money needed for the house, the amount of money needed for the car was $35,000. The amount of money needed for the house was $7,000. People, I had a real problem with that. And when I complained, then they gave me the money for that. They gave me the money for the house, right? But we didn't get the car. But the fact that we could have if we wanted to, and this is what we run into when we're not investing our money properly. And it's up to me to make sure those two boys that you just saw, it's up to me to make sure they're okay. It's up to us to make sure we're okay. And the ministers are hurting us really bad because they're taking all our money. They're taking it's just like in slavery time. It's in the Constitution of 1890. It's not there by accident. The whole thing was designed to keep niggas out of politics. And so if it's designed to keep Negroes out of politics, but they would let a minister could vote, and then the same minister, they go to disarm the black peoples in Lauderdale County, in the city of Meridian, and they disarm them. And then they destroyed, we're going to call it Black Wall Street in Meridian, Mississippi. They destroyed it. But that's the first thing they're going to do. And they're still doing that with all these laws, with these open, the Castle Doctrine, where they have a right to carry a gun. And then they tell our children, hey, there's no such thing as a law like this in Mississippi. That's the reason why it's up to us to do the research and know for ourselves. We cannot accept, they're not going to tell us the truth. They're not going to tell the truth about anything. It's up to us to get the truth. Doesn't matter what color that person is. Black folks ain't going to tell you the truth. A lot of them not. They're using them.
Me and Dice, most definitely, we could be out or whatever, individually. If I see your son or your daughter doing something that's improper or doing something that they shouldn't do, I'm going to correct them. And you know what, man? We talk about our children, right? But it's been very far and in between, that I've asked a young man, not told him, I didn't tell him to do anything, but I asked him to, pull his pants up and why, that he didn't do it. It's very far and in between. It may be 1 or 2 out of 100, because we had a village coming up. It's still a village out here. Mm-hmm. We still have people out here that's doing the work. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. We can name them. So it's people out here that's really trying. And those people that, when they correct your children, they're showing some concern about your children. I mean, take heed to that. Like, it takes a village. Nobody can do it by themselves. And when we were coming up, nobody had to, because we had men and women in the community that would look out for each other. And we need to get back to that. We might not see it. You might not see it going on very often, but I know some people out here that's doing it. I know people that are actually out here doing the work. So let's not just look at it like nobody cares about our children, because we do. Yeah. It's out of love and concern for our young men and our young women to be the best that they could be. I was listening to a guy, he was speaking, I wrote this down. He was like, bless them by being the best version of themselves. And I was like, man, that's powerful. If we can continue to teach our children to be the best version of themselves, tap into whatever that is, I was talking to your son today, and he told me his favorite subject was math, right? And I'm like, okay, so we tap into this mathematic, this interest, then, man, we don't know what this young man could be.
That's right.
An investor, a banker. I mean, he could change the whole dynamic of this community because he's into numbers. He loves math. So we don't know. Don't push anybody out of the way because you don't ever know what their gift is.
And I agree with that, people. And I want to talk about this son. My son always been around me. It's very important that we have male role models over our children. Sure. We cannot get around that. He's been living with his mom for about the last year or so, acting out. Not bad, not Meridian Public School bad. Now, when I say Meridian Public School bad, him acting out is perhaps maybe going down the hallway without permission. Now, he in a situation where almost all administrators and everybody's white. So he in that upscale kind of neighborhood, which not saying is wrong, but it kind of like different. So he's coming here and wow, he's doing well. Now he's doing his homework. He's doing, how about, wow, his mom said, when you come home, he don't even want to leave because he's with dad. He's with that male role model. He's with someone he can look up to, someone that he can be like. They don't have that one. So it's very important that we have that modeling, and it has to be male. And it has not no watered down version of it. When I'm talking about, I don't have anything to deal with, it doesn't matter to me about your sexual preference, whether or not you're gay. Whether or not you want to act like a female or act like a man. None of that bothers me. I have a sister. I have two sisters and a brother. They're what you call butch. And I tell you, I don't have any problem with them. I love them and I accept them wholeheartedly. And matter of fact, I would prefer my sisters over my children than to have a watered down version of me. And then, that's the one what has to perpetuate the homosexual stereotype. Only 1% of the gay population perpetuates a homosexual stereotype, meaning that if it's a man, he got to act all this, and that doesn't mean why do we have to perpetuate a stereotype, and then we have those, and so we have a lot of administrators here in Meridian Public School that are gay. If they're not gay, they have a very feminine way. There's nothing masculine about them other than the fact that they look like us, but they don't talk like us. Their mannerism is not like us. And it's very important that our children are modeled. We got to have strong male role models, not tatted up. Not those things where your pants hanging off of you. Where you going to go and get a job at? And they're embracing the tattoos. But there's certain places you can't go. Certain things you cannot do. All tatted up with your pants hanging off of you. Now, hey, be like you want to be and do what you want to do. But you got to dress for the job you want. As simple as that.
Yeah, your children.
Dice man got a point, don't you, Dice?
Your children most definitely mimic you.
Yeah, I can say that in a lot of ways, they're not. We as a society are not holding our young folks to what we should be holding them to. When it comes to tattoos and the way they dress, they're in McDonald's. They're in almost every restaurant, every retail store I go to. Now, when we was in school, we was being told that you had to dress for the job. You couldn't have tattoos everywhere, or else you might not get the job. Well, that's not happening anymore. So that means that at some point we dropped the ball on what the standard should be for our children. The parents are allowing it. These industries are allowing it because they know at the end of it, it's destruction anyway. They know it's going to affect them later on. So we dropped the ball on a lot of things. And to say this about the churches, although there are good people in the churches, always has been. I love growing up in the church. The churches are not doing what they're supposed to do by the people. Because if they were doing what they were supposed to do by the people, things wouldn't be the way they are.
That's right.
They got 200-300 people sometime on Sundays. A bigger audience than any of us. So why is our condition still the same and has been the same for so long?
Maybe they need to open the doors every day. So they don't just have them on Sunday.
Well, I don't think that they
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You know what I mean?
I assure you, if I was a minister of a church, ain't no sheriff gonna come up in there and tell me to disarm my congregation. So they know what they're doing when they have the ministers over us and teaching us their version of the truth, and also empowering them, and that's what they're doing. Do you realize, people? I mean, get as angry as you want to. You all know, some of you out there that are listening know what we went through when we was trying to get money from commercial bank. They do not want to give us money to empower us. They're simple as that. They want that money. It's okay. If I had been white, I would have got the job. But it doesn't matter. I don't do anything as long as I stand there and I'm in charge and I'm getting the bulk of the money. Yeah, black people still did most of the work, but it was a white man that got the bulk of the money, and they just was not gonna free that money until I was all the way out of the picture. After signing contracts, after getting $5 million worth of insurance, after getting a permit and a bond from the city of Meridian, the bank still would not give me that money, people. So it's something wrong when you go. It's okay, go to church, wish whatever God you want to, but somebody needs to be holding somebody. That man that's standing up there reading from their version of the truth is not God, and it's not going to get you in heaven or anywhere like that. Only thing is doing, look around, look at the state of our community. It's your fault. And hey, you know better if you're listening to me. Some of you know better anyway. You just won't say anything. You're feeling good about going up there in the sky. And they got the spaceship Hubble that done went so far that I promise you they ain't seen nothing but black holes. They ain't seen heaven yet. And if you was to do the translation of it, Hades, going to hell, Hades is the Greek word for grave. That's simple as that. Everybody gonna go to, unless they get cremated, they going to hell. You can't go to heaven if you die. My mama, oh boy, too bad, forgive me, but mama went to hell because she's buried out there in the ground, and that's just literally what it is. Am I right or wrong about that? Hades, me, the grave. That's what it means. Simple as that. Now, not the place where you're talking about fire burning and then this you know, the Bible, your Bible say that the Satan, very beautiful. Very beautiful. And so they put the horns on his head like a bull and put a pitchfork in his hand like a farmer in order to ridicule. But how about the very thing that you laughed at? You're so afraid of it now. If you see it, it's pathetic. But I want you guys, I want us to kind of close up on this a little bit, because I told you guys that I was going to read you the lawsuit where the Andrakios filed against Cassie Coleman. So I went through it, and so I really want you guys to see this, because I really want you guys to hear this, and I'm going to show you something. She really is not a resident of Lauderdale County. She isn't. She is not. How is it that? Why is it that they want her so bad to represent us when a lot of white people didn't vote for her? Wow, what is it about Cassie that she cannot be a resident of Lauderdale County and they want her to represent the 10th Judicial District, which is Lauderdale, Kemper, Clark, and Wayne County? What is it about her? She's not a resident. Now, you remember when I ran for Justice Court Judge, the circuit clerk of Lauderdale County, Donna Jill Johnson, got in touch with Alabama, did all kind of research on me to find out, to prove that she was trying her best to put me in jail, folks. I'm just telling you the truth. Why is it that the same Republican Party, the same people are there, why aren't you as diligent with Cassie? I mean, wow. I mean, why aren't you? I just got to ask that question. So we're going to take us a break. I'm going to have that Dice Man play a song, and I promise you folks, the number to call in is 601-627-5318. I want you to like us. I want you to subscribe. ReachingOutWithEddie.com. If you have any comments, I want you guys not just listen. I want you to call in. Dolores, I know you tried to call in. You need to not call me after this show. I need you to call in and give that comment. TC, thank you. Dice Man, play that song.
Thank you.
Folks, I want to welcome you back with Reaching Out with Eddie. People, if you wanted to send us an email, it's reaching out with Eddie at yahoo.com. Of course, you know that YouTube is just reaching out with Eddie.com, and also our website is just reaching out with Eddie.com. We have a Twitter account, we have the blogger, so you have so many ways of leaving your comment, or either perhaps maybe you want to talk about something or ask a question. The Dice Man kind of monitors the screen when we're on the air, so you can sometimes get you, but usually we won't see it until after the show. Dolores, I do want you to call in, but when you call in, step away from your monitor, step away. Interview, if you want to call in, 601-627-5318. Step away from your monitor, go into another room, and give your comment, and then jump back, and you can hear yourself talk and everything, or either you can look at it later. Okay, well, we got a caller. Caller, you're on the podcast with Reaching Out with Eddie. Hello?
Okay, this is Dolores.
And we can hear you so fine, so clearly, Dolores. Thank you for calling in.
Okay, so my comment is about the upcoming presidential election. We as black people need to get out and vote. Our current president 2 weeks ago stated that he had got Apple Company to come to Texas. You pointed out to me that Apple had been here. I researched it. I knew there was an Apple in Texas, but I thought there was a new division. He lied to the public. Apple has been in Texas for 6 years. So we as a people need to go out and vote.
And also, people, just so some of you don't know, Dolores is the first female that stole my heart. But anyway, that's my first wife, and we have a daughter, Katara Hope. But Dolores, you had an observation. You was telling me how Meridian, she was recently here you were recently here at my mom's funeral, and your observation was that Meridian had not changed, and you was somewhat surprised that we were somewhat stuck. And I think, could you get that comment before you hang up?
I told you Meridian was stuck in a time capsule. I was very upset. It seems like it hasn't changed since I left. I left Meridian in 1975 to join the Army, and it seems to be stuck. We as black people are not using the rights that Malcolm X and Martin Luther King died for. We're not voting. We're not progressing. It just hurt my spirit.
Well, thank you for calling in, Dolores. And I can tell you, people, that and what she's talking about is Meridian, Mississippi, because a lot of other places it might be, but it's not as bad as it is here in Meridian, Mississippi. And for her to have lived here and then come back, we talking about 75. Wow, we talking about 44 years later. She come back and she see that things have gotten worse for us, that we have not progressed as people. That's not a compliment, people. But I want to read this lawsuit that I did not touch upon. And so I'm going to read this lawsuit. And thank you for calling in, Dolores. This is Richard and Stacy Andracchio. They are the plaintiff against Cassie Coleman, the state executive committee of the Mississippi Republican Party, and unknown John Doe defendants 1 through 10. Wow. So see how you file a lawsuit when you don't know who it is? All you got to do is just know who, one person. The rest of them going to come up doing discovery, and I've talked about that. And so I'm going to read this to you, and then we're going to stop, and me, TC, and Richard, and the Dice Man, we're going to give some comments on this. Comes now Richard and Stacey Andracchio, plaintiffs herein, through undersigned counsel, and found this verified complaint to contest election against Cassie Coleman, the state executive committee of the Mississippi Republican Party, and John Doe defendants 1 through 10 for good cause, which show the following. The parties, of course, the parties are resident of Lauderdale County, and the defendant, Cassie Coleman, here referred to as Miss Coleman, is on information and belief an adult resident citizen of the state of Georgia, suffering under no known legal disabilities, ain't nothing wrong with her, who may serve with processing this action in her place of employment, the district attorney office, that's right here in Lauderdale County, the 10th Judicial District. Defendant, this is section number 3, defendant, the state executive committee of the Mississippi Republican Party, is a political organization conducting operations from its headquarters located at 415 Yazoo Street, Jackson, Mississippi. And of course, through their chairman, Lucien Smith. I guess she's the person that's over. And defendant 1 through 6 is unknown John Doe. Is a representative or agent of the Republican Party of Mississippi. The proper name, which is unknown at this time, will be found out during discovery. And then, of course, we're going to go, I'm going to skip because defendant 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is the same. Now I'm going to go down to number 10, unknown John Doe. Defendant number 7 through 10 are fictitious parties representing real parties in interest unknown to the plaintiff. And so this here is the lawsuit that they're finding the Androchios are filing against Stacy Cassie Coleman. Okay, it's at venue is proper in Kemper County. That's where they filed a lawsuit as said county comprised a subdivision of the 10th Circuit District of Mississippi. The defendant Coleman was qualified to seek election in Kemper County in 2019 general election in the state of Mississippi. She qualified in Kemper County, Wayne County, Clark County, and Lauderdale County people, but they chose to file this lawsuit in a subdivision of hers, which she represents. Again, it said the 10th Circuit is composed of Kemper, Lauderdale, Clark, and Wayne County. Okay, at some point in or around March of 2019, this is March of 2019, Ms. Coleman was qualified by the Executive Committee as a Republican candidate for the office of District Attorney of the 10th District. Now, somewhere around March, and understand she was appointed in this position by Bilbo Mitchell. And of course, the governor is the one that has to do it, but the governor did do it. Prior to November 5th of 2019, Ms. Coleman had not established domicile in a county within the 10th district, meaning she did not have a place to stay in either Kemper County, Lauderdale County, or Wayne County, or Clark County. She had not established residence. That's what this lawsuit is saying now. I'm reading it to you. It said that Ms. Coleman did not abandon her established domicile. That's her home now. Located in McDowell, I guess I'm saying it right, McDowell, Georgia, prior to the election, nor has she since abandoned her Georgia residence, meaning that she's still living in Georgia, folks. Ms. Coleman came to Lauderdale County upon her employment as an assistant district attorney with the district attorney office sometime in 2015. Since that time, she has been a transient. Now, you know what a transient, that's a person that moved back and forth. A transient employee whose workplace is in Lauderdale County, just like the people over in Butler, Yantly, and all these other surrounding areas. They come here, they travel here to work. But she does not reside in Lauderdale County. Just like all the people over there in Yantly, in Butler, in Sweetwater, in Demopolis, in all you, well, y'all see where I'm going with that. Ms. Coleman association with the 10th District was precipitated by her employment as district attorney in or around the year 2015. Ms. Coleman's continued presence in the area since 2015 was entirely related to said employment on a near consistent weekly basis. Since 2015, Ms. Coleman has returned to her residence in Georgia on the conclusion of the work week. Ms. Coleman continued presence in the 10th District since her return in 2015 has always been incumbent upon maintaining her employment, meaning she wouldn't be here if she didn't work, folks. While working in her assistant district attorney role and subsequent in her role in the appointed district attorney for the 10th District, Ms. Coleman has room at one or both of her father's dwellings located at 4945 CA Pritchard Road, Meridian, Mississippi, or 3764 Oak Ridge Lane, Meridian, Mississippi, during the work week. From the onset of her employment with the district attorney office, Ms. Coleman routinely and persistently returned to her Georgia residence on Thursdays or Friday at the conclusion of each work week. On information and belief, Ms. Coleman was married to Mr. James C. Mercer III in or around December of 2016, and she remains married to Mr. Mercer. Ms. Coleman, and Mr. Mercer monitor and live at 848 Lake Road 1, McDowell, Georgia. And I might not be saying it right because I didn't Google this sound. I'm just reading it because I have a master's degree don't mean I can pronounce every word correctly. Yeah, you heard that, didn't you, Tube? You heard that, didn't you, Dolores? All right. The family has lived at said residence continually since on or about April 2015, and the amount of children attend school in that area, not here, folks, in that area. For the tax year of 2019, Mr. Mercer and Miss Coleman and Cassie Coleman enjoyed a homestead exemption on their residence located at 848 Lake Road 1, McDowell, Georgia. That would look like McDonald's. I guess McDonald's, Georgia. But y'all got where I'm coming from. It's McDonough. Do nobody call in and tell me how to pronounce it, because I'm going to Google it when I leave here. You can find out anything on Google, and I'll pronounce it right if I'm wrong when on my next show. As attested by a copy of the actual assessment notice for the 2019 tax year. And it is, people. It's part of Exhibit A, which is also a copy of a security deed, like a warranty deed, for Mr. Mercer as a married man. It lists on the warranty deed that he's a married man. And of course, that's in the publication by the Henry County, Georgia tax assessors regarding the property taxes. Your rights and responsibilities are attached here to, that's composed Exhibit A, meaning that they give you your rights in Henry, Georgia, in Henry County, Georgia, or any county in Georgia. They give you a pamphlet stating your rights and responsibilities under the Georgia law. In order to file for homestead exemption in Henry County, Georgia, Ms. Coleman and Mr. Mercer must meet certain qualifications under Georgia law. Georgia exemption of which exceed the state exemption. One must present a recorded warranty deed, Georgia's license showing the current Henry County address for both you and your spouse. Meaning it has to be there. The Georgia law requires it. It ain't no one can't be there. If you're married, you and your wife both has to get that exemption. In order to get that exemption, both names has to have Georgia license plate, and everything has to be in the Georgia resident. Y'all understand where I'm going with that? And all vehicles, for both you and your spouse, regardless of whose name appear on the deed, even though it's in his name, both the spouse and all of them name has to be on the exemption, and also they has to have Georgia driver's license and Georgia license. Conversely, Ms. Coleman has not established a homestead in the 10th district. She does not own, nor has she within the past 2 years owned real property within the 10th district. She don't own any property here. Now that's not any requirement now, but she's homesteading in the state of Georgia with her husband and goes there every weekend, folks. The Mississippi Code defines homestead as the dwelling actually occupied as the primary home of a family group. This is Mississippi Code annotated 273319. Further word, the word home or homestead means a dwelling, an essential outbuilding, and improvements, and the eligible land assessment on the land road actually occupied as the primary home of a family group. They've established that in the state of Georgia, folks. It's not right here in Lauderdale County or Mississippi. So you got to ask, what's going on? What's going on with all these different clerks and all these different counties, of which all of them are Republican, and the state executive party? Now, they didn't come after me. I got to say that. It was the Democratic Party. They didn't want me. They don't ever want anybody that's going to we're gonna say push the apple cart over. They don't want those kind of people there. They don't want our children to have a fair chance at life. They don't want our children at all. And this really is about our children. I don't care what anybody say. It's our children that are being. It was our children that was going from the schoolhouse to the jailhouse. It's our children that's getting these hefty fines and these sentencing and these very high bails. It's not their children, it's our children. And that's what's wrong with this system here. And so they had to put someone there. And she has done that since she's been there. She has given out some time. She gave these two guys, neither one of them had a criminal record. She made sure they got 25 years apiece, and they didn't have any evidence. They even changed the video, people. They changed it. They say like it happened in the springtime, and you couldn't see the house, and they showed the original video, and then they go back. By the time they come to court, you got a video in the fall time where all the debris and everything is down, so you can see the house. Man, all these kind of things went on. That's when I really lost a lot of respect for. It really upset. It really bothered me that Judge Wright would sit over there and allow for that to happen. It really bothered me. It really did, because I've known him and he has represented me when he was an attorney. But I'm gonna continue to read. It said, now listen to this now. It was not until on or about May the 3rd of 2019 that Ms. Coleman registered for a Mississippi tag for a 2011 Ford exploring listing both Mrs. Coleman and Mr. Mercer as registrants. You know, the people that register the vehicle. Prior to May 3rd, 2019, said vehicle was registered in the state of Georgia with the tag number RKD0950. See how they're coming in now and registering a vehicle in 2019 in order to circumvent the law, in my opinion. And again, we cannot allow for that to happen. People, all of you should be outraged. Not because I'm reading this to you. You can go and get this. It's public information. It's filed right there in Kemper County. I can give you, and that was clearly designed to circumvent the law. Circumvent the law. In other words, to fool you, to make you think that they're registered here. But how about now they'll lose their homestead exemption. Oh, these people ain't playing, folks. These attorneys went there and did this investigation. They went up there and got the Georgia law. It's a group of attorneys don't like what they're doing here, and I want to applaud those attorneys. I ain't calling their name because you don't need to know their name. But they did a very good job because this is what the law say, and I'm with the law on all of this. It was not until on or about November 8th of 2017 that Ms. Coleman registered for a car tag for a 2012 Honda Pilot in Lauderdale County, Mississippi. Previously to November 8, 2017, the said vehicle was registered in Lamar County, Mississippi, where the defendant also apparently owns real property. Moreover, on information and belief, Ms. Coleman continued to file her federal and state tax return as a resident of the state of Georgia and does not pay Mississippi income tax as would be required for a Mississippi resident. You understand? Now, she said over the news that she made a mistake. Really, folks? Do you really believe this Juris Doctor, this lawyer, this person that's upholding the law would really forget and make a mistake on filing your taxes? Well, she lied then. If she filed taxes in the state of Georgia and she's a Mississippi resident, she don't broke the law in Mississippi. If she filed in Georgia and she's a Mississippi resident, so what is the truth? Cassie done broke the law. It's simple as that. Do you really want somebody to represent you in the state of Mississippi? I know you white folks out there, you getting mad at me because you're upholding Donald Trump and that kind of thing. We got Donald Trump type stuff going right here in Lauderdale County, Meridian, Mississippi. TC, what you got to say about all this? What about you, Richard? One of y'all got to give me a compliment. I want to read this here. Cause of action, contest of election. The plaintiff hereby alleges and incorporate by reference the information set forth in paragraph 1 through 27 as set herein. Candidates seeking election as district attorney in Mississippi must meet the following qualification provided by the terms of MCA 2531.1. The district attorney shall possess all the qualifications of a county officer. In addition, there are meaning that she has to be a resident in the state of Mississippi for 2 years and be a regular licensed and practicing attorney and shall have been duly admitted to practice before the Supreme Court of the state of Mississippi for a period of 2 years. Now, she satisfied that, but the residential part, she don't satisfy any of the qualification as a county officer. She just does not. But she has not done that. And for them to allow for her Donna Jill Johnson came after me. Why she didn't come after Cassie? She called them up. And people, this is just really a travesty. And it's sad that these kind of things go on here. And I want to talk about our mayor. The mayor Meridian, none of the department heads. It's the same thing. And I had Representative Young here, and he didn't want to say it, but I can infer from him, from what I'm understanding, and from his inferences, or maybe my interpretation, that they haven't put Percy in jail because they don't want to put the first black mayor. I said, the hell with that. Put his ass in jail. If you put me in jail, let him. Well, he couldn't even get an expungement because he wasn't qualified. And I got to talk about Mr. Hobson, too. And the law that I wanted to look up, but I wanted you guys to see, was that Twin. It was a big thing this weekend with Twin. That's Toraya Thompson. You know, the convicted felon. The convicted felon is making more money than two police officers that just starting out. The convicted felon that don't even live in Meridian, Mississippi, or allowed it. But folks, I know y'all seen me. That's the kind of look I got when I was growing up, boy. If I step in and interrupt grown folk, I got a look that would chill your blood. Red, too bad you know what I'm talking about. A lot of you out there know that look. When them old folks give your mama give you that look, you automatically start crying because you already know. I promise you, I just froze my son's blood when he came to that door and said something. I gave him a look that would chill his soul. But the law, I said, Twin, by what authority are you out here? He was at Mr. Jimmy Hobson's house telling him that he had to move his cars. Folks, him and that Kelly girl, I don't know her first name. I'm gonna give you her first. They are notorious in the black community, going on people's property and having records haul people cars and things off. I told him, I looked him in the I said, we didn't hire you for that. I said, I'm gonna be mayor. Folks, I said, we gonna get rid of Percy. I said, we didn't bring Percy. We didn't bring your ass on for that. We didn't bring you on to come in and oppress us and do everything. I ain't never seen so much. I never seen so much ass licking since I was a child. I ain't never seen anybody lick white folks and white Republican butt as much as Percy Bland does. He done put 4 white folks over a school board where the majority of the students, there 95% of the student body is black. What the hell is going on? Excuse me, Brenda. But it's just sometimes we have to resort to profanity and in order to express ourselves fully. You need to understand how irate I am. That we have this Democratic mayor that's, it's like a wolf in sheep clothing. He's totally destroyed. Not one department head lives in it. A lot lives in Meridian, Mississippi. They either live in Kemper County. Terrell and his wife live in Kemper County and sending their child to private school. How much money? Then those 4 people, that Tyrone Johnson, you know, what his name, George Thomas. George Thomas gonna vote for anything that's gonna benefit white folks. Anything that's gonna hurt black people, he's gonna vote for it. It's just simple as that. George Thomas, time for him to go home. It's just time for him to go. It's time for Kim Houston to go and focus on her insurance business full time. It's time for Tyrone Johnson. I'm told he's a teacher. It's time for him to focus on that full time. It's time for and Fannie Mae Johnson, it's time for her to get on down to Love Kitchen and focus on feeding the homeless. It's time for them to go. It's just simple as that, but it's time for us to clean house. It's time for us to get Percy. It's time for us to get that Bama up out of there. You understand me? Not because he's hurting black people, he's hurting this city. This is the declining city. We got the same, y'all on TV looking at what's going on with Donald Trump. What's going on right here in Meridian, Mississippi, Lauderdale County. Let's clean up our house. Let's get Percy. We need to get him up out of there and fire Terrell ass. We need to fire him and we need to fire that girl. Because how about he giving a law? I said, what law are you operating under? He said MCA 19-5-105. Well, I looked it up. The law says that if a majority of the residents that live around you within 400 feet file a complaint with the city, then the city could in turn go out there and write that tell them to move, whatever it is. Well, Mr. Jimmy Hobson got 200 cars that they trying to make him move. Most of those cars are covered up in debris. So it's not a public nuisance because you can't look through them trees. Ain't nobody got no business. I promise you a snake will bite them this time of year before anything else bite them. How is it that, I said, we didn't hire you for that. We didn't hire you to mess with our old people. We didn't hire you to oppress our children or any of our people or any citizen of this city. We hired you, we expect, when we said change gonna come, wow, did it come? It came from bad to worse. And folks, this is what really upset me about this current administration. Every single department head, folks, every last one of them is a Republican, and none of them. Even Hugh Smith, the lone black person that I know that's over the department head, even Hugh Smith, that Bama is a Republican, folk. I don't know what the lady over I don't know what Terrell and his wife is. I know he's a convicted felon. Oh, yes, I told him that. I said, you convicted felon, I'm going to run for mayor. I said, I'm going to fire your ass. He said, I don't appreciate you talking to me. I said, I don't give a damn what you appreciate. You can't do nothing about it. I said, you was a bad police officer. And now you around here doing the same thing that you was doing. And here the little Kelly girl, that's Berta Finch's granddaughter, I think. The little Kelly girl or her daughter, I don't know which one. So glad sometimes we get drunk with power. When we get drunk with power, well, okay, go and find, it's some white folks. What about that man downtown by Rush Hospital with all them cars? I ain't seen you gave them one of them a ticket. Go and mess with some white folk. Wow, isn't that something? Well, man, it's got to be something wrong with this, TC. Yeah. Like, it's got to be something wrong with that reaching. Well, we only mess with our own kind. We ain't got no money. These people that got these cars you coming to get, they can't even come to back. And the people that on the record, I only know one back record, and that's Boyd. That's the only one I know. Everybody else is white. So they coming to get it again, they taking from us. Us they don't have. They taking from us, and it's time for us to put a stop to that. TC.
I mean, the solution to the problem is we have to figure out how we gonna do it together, man. I mean, I keep going back to group economics. I mean, my opinion is a little different when it comes down to who is who and what is what, because at the end of the day, in my opinion, man, we could do this thing without a whole lot of these people that are in any position. A lot of times I think the little man feels like, well, I don't have this and I don't have that necessarily, but man, it's a lot of properties in our community that are, tax liens. A lot of properties in our community that have grass growing through them. It's a lot of properties in our community. I mean, look, get 2 or 3 of your neighbors together, purchase a couple of these properties, knock them down, tear them down. I mean, it's things that we can do in our community that could change the dynamic of all of this stuff going on. True enough, when you talk about administration, you talk about the leaders, you talk about the decisions that they're making, this is true. But man, I promise you, people, if we come together, we figure out how to work together, we figure out how we can all spend our money together, we can build our community, we can clean up our communities, we can get our children together, get them on the right track, educate them. I mean, we have everything we need in our communities. True. And we don't have to depend on these people that doesn't have the same interest that you have in your community.
And I agree with that, but
I'm not even debunking what you said. Like,
no,
but what I'm saying is this. On the flip side of that,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Look, and I've always been taught to counterpunch, man.
Yeah.
Where I get that from?
You got it from me. He got it from
All
me.
right. So I've always been taught to counterpunch, right? So if you have somebody choking you, you got to figure out how to get their hands from around your neck. So the thing is, let's come up with a solution together of how to get their hands from around our neck, and let's make this thing happen so we can get on top.
And the problem with that again is resources, folks. We don't
It's
have the resources,
always
and then
resources.
it's resources, not only
Always.
that, and willing bodies.
Always.
But we have just a few bodies, and those few bodies can't be oppressed by the administration that we put there to make things not do it for us, but to not oppress us. And that's what this is about. It's the oppression that we're receiving from this administration, where they're constantly arresting people and putting people in jail that doesn't have the money to get out of jail or to pay the fine. So you steady putting a crutch on people that can't even stand to have nothing put on them. People that don't have the economic resources. And we talk about our people. And I want to go back to this law that he told me about. When I read that law to him, I said, you gave me this law. It does not give you that authority to go into anyone's yard. I said, write a damn ticket and get your ass on down the street, people. That's the kind of mentality we gonna have to have. But how about he didn't go anywhere? Since he represents the city, he called a police officer. Police came out there and really just turned around. Well, I'm not breaking any law. He doesn't have any arrest authority. It's a good thing he did, because if he did, he would have took me to jail that day. And so eventually he called somebody and he found a city ordinance, baby, folks, but understand that state law does not supersede federal law, and any city ordinance cannot be created unless it has a state law in order to ride up under it. So when they go on your property and start moving vehicles, even if it's a city ordinance, it's against state law, because state law does not allow for them to do that. But most people that are doing like that doesn't have the resources in order to fight them. So why do we put up with this? Well, how we have to do is like the Lord said, and like this brother said, and this brother, and that brother, and all of you out there, we got to vote. We got to get Percy out of there. Yes, I'm going to run for mayor. It might not be me, but I assure you I'm going to be a part of change, because I'm going to change what we have in there for what something better for all of the people. Don't think that I'm going to be a bad person. I assure you, if I do make mayor, or whoever make mayor, it'll be better than what we have now. If we're going to be a Democratic Party, Percy, I tell you what you do. Damn it. Run as a Republican, because that's what you is. Run as one. And watch how them white folks going to vote for your ass. TC, give your final thoughts, and you do the same thing with you.
Hold on, Richard. Go ahead, Richard.
My final thought is this.
Mr. Richard, forgive me.
The people never like a person like you, Eddie, because you show them how foolish we've been tricked and used all our lives. They've always used the law to scare us into subjection. If you speak back and tell them what the law says, it makes them very, very upset. I went through this in Nebraska. They get nervous, they get mad, So they will not tell you the truth because they done lost focus on what really is the truth. The truth to them is doing what they want to do. They've been doing this all their lives. And when you start learning the truth, what the law says, and use it against them, they breaking the law, that's the power that you have to control them. And once they see that in you, they want to get rid of you. Why? Because you showing your people how they can come up and stop being down all the time because they're misusing the law, misrepresentation. They've been doing that all their life, and they get away with it. They know they can get away with it because they have their own peoples in power and position. Their own people, it has nothing to do with color. It's their own people doing what they want to get done to control you, your people, the wrong way. You can come out of that. You got to be willing to sacrifice to help your people. If you're not willing to sacrifice, you can forget it. The military take guys and train them 6 to 8 weeks to carry out any job. 6 to 8 weeks. You can do that same thing 6 to 8 months. You can do the same thing. You don't know how to do it because the people that know how to do it, you won't listen to them. That's when they don't like.
And when you say you're not talking about me, it's
No.
when you're talking about black people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want, because a lot of people out there think you're talking about me.
No.
And so
I use that.
Oh.
Sometimes I can be talking.
Generally speaking.
I can be talking to a person. I use that word "you,"
Right.
and what I'm saying, it makes them upset because they think I'm talking about you,
Yeah.
you.
Well, yeah, I knew you weren't talking about me, but I wanted the people to understand that you
Yeah.
were really talking about black people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I also like what you said about the military.
Yeah.
The first thing they do is they take your old
Yes.
ideology
Yes.
and they break you down.
Destroy it.
They
They
brainwash
say,
you.
"Look, we're gonna break you down, and then we're gonna build you up
Back.
with this proper,
True.
with this information that's proper
right.
for us."
That's
Right.
true.
And that's one of the solutions
True.
that we can use.
Same thing.
Is to take. That's why this show is here. That's why information is important.
Yeah.
That's why having these discussions, whether we agree or not, whether we, because we're not gonna argue about this thing,
I
but
wanna
because
say-
we all love each other. We concerned
That's
about
right.
each other as black men
Right.
and black women, right? But the thing is, when you talk about breaking down, sometimes all of these old things that we're doing as a community is, I'm gonna vote for you because I like you. I'm gonna
And we
vote
gotta
for
get
you
away
because
from
I
that.
think. Then we have to change
That's right.
our thought process. And like you said, man, it would only take 6 weeks, 8 weeks. It would only take us getting together, sitting down, and educating each other, and having these conversations. Because sometimes, like we were talking about earlier, we said people can only do what they know,
That's right.
right? And sometimes we just don't necessarily know. We just do what we saw somebody else do.
True.
And I want to say this one thing, just to share this one piece of information about doing what you see somebody else do, right? It was a little girl that was cooking a ham with her mom, okay? And her mom cut the back of the ham off and put it in the pot to bake it. And the little girl said, "Mom, why did you cut the back of the ham off?" And she said, "Well, I saw my mom do it. So let's call Grandma." They called Grandma. Grandma said, "Well, I saw my mom do it. So let's call Great Grandma." Great Grandma said, "The reason I cut the back of the ham off is so it could fit in the pot.
Mm-hmm.
My pot wasn't big enough for the whole ham to fit in." But what did your children do? They adopted your
That's right.
behavior. They saw
That's
you
right.
do it, so they did it.
Right.
So that's what's going on in our communities. We just see people making bad choices about different things, and we just keep making these same choices.
That's right.
And so we have to figure out how we can educate our people. When we say educate, it's teach, listen, and learn. Education is not you going to a school and somebody telling you what you need to read.
So
You know?
how do we get our ministers involved? They had a captive audience every Sunday. They have that. How do we get them involved? How can we get them to stop looking at me and stop looking at you, stop looking at Brother Dice, stop looking at Brother Lawson, and hear what we say, and then perhaps implement, make a difference. It started in the church. All movements have started in the church. Martin Luther King movement started in the
In
church.
the African American community, that is where that is what you need. That's the one place that everybody hubs together and they have their voice. So how do we do that? I guess I don't know who the person is that can make that happen, because we've tried. I've tried as an individual.
And I've tried.
I know Dice has tried as an individual, but maybe we can start one preacher at a time and see if we can get them to possibly call their brethren and sit down with each other.
Well, one thing you made a statement years ago about training the young people's minds.
Have to.
After so many years, they will change the voting system, and a lot of time you have to train peoples in teaching them how to change things
And
at an early age.
That's right. And he is correct. And what I was talking about is that I get over 8 years ago, if they had implemented this plan, we could have reseeded the Democratic Party and turned Lauderdale County blue. We could have done that. I made a mistake. I gave it to Percy, and Percy probably still has it and probably reading from it still. But how about I still have it up here and I could do it again? But then if you take our leaders and they don't implement these plans in order to create change for our community, then we have to replace their leadership. This
create
leadership.
We just create leaders. We just keep creating.
And
We just keep dumping it into our young people.
And one of the
creating.
things that I was talking about is that, hey, how about we take a person at 4 years, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and start teaching them, making them leaders of tomorrow, getting them involved in the democratic process. Well, we're going to take this call, and then I'm going to close it out. Okay, caller, you on the air?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have two questions.
Yes.
One is, okay, when they hired the new Parks and Rec guy, I saw that they was referencing $99,000. Do we know whether or not what his starting salary is?
I tell you what I will do. I'm going to get Weston Linderman come here next week, and we're going to have that question for him. I bet you he would know.
Because they said they pulled $99,000 out of another budget. So surely they didn't put it out to pay him $90,000 to be over Parks and Rec.
But you know what? We can only assume that they did. If they pulled $99,000 from somewhere, they had to. They're gonna use it in Parks and Rec. If they pull it out for Parks and Rec, well, I guess it's not a budget shortfall. That must be his salary, and that's sad.
Okay.
That's sad.
Okay.
We're paying somebody
It was
$100,000.
really.
Go ahead.
Well, I got one more question. Is there anywhere that you know of that the tape where the CAO was using threatening whatever?
I have
Is
a
there
copy
any way
of it.
But I mean, there's nowhere where we can listen to it.
The tape. Well, you can go to Lolo's Facebook page, and she has that. You have to scroll down until you get to it. But you scroll down far enough, you can actually hear him talking. I listened at it today.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll try that.
All right.
I think I didn't know that meeting was gonna be today,
Yeah.
but we need to keep up with that.
Okay, well, thank you for calling in. And people, it's sad if we take $100,000 and pay it to anybody that has never worked in Parks and Recreation with our children ever. He's never done that. He's been a hospital administration. Again, we're going to have to get rid of the leadership. I want to talk about a couple of things. It's our condition. We're so used to the condition that we're in that we become complacent and won't do anything. That's the reason why it's so hard for me, for TC, for Dice, and for other people like us to implement change. People that really care and want to make a difference and try to steer our people into a different direction. It is so hard for us because of the condition that they're in. Sometimes we don't know our conditions. Sometimes we're so used and so complacent. And one thing you said, TC, and I'd like for you to say it again, what your grandfather said about those people back then, the reason why the people today won't do anything is because they're descendant of the people that accepted what happened in 1871. And that's sad. Drugs. They talk about the military. Well, I was in the military. I don't think either one of them was in the military. So Dolores know what I'm talking about. And my brother David too. But anybody been in the military know they use drugs. We had militants in the military that thought like me, and man, I thought they was crazy. Here I am, man. I don't want to hear that. And they smoking that stuff. I seen people shoot up and everything. But they have a same way of ostracizing them and getting them out. They immediately kick them out of the military. They don't care about them using their drugs or anything like that. They'll disable anything. They want to get them out from around the other people. They're going to take them. I'm a rotten apple. I'm a spoiled apple. They're going to get me out of. They don't want me to talk to our children. They don't want me to talk to you. They don't want me to make you aware. So that's what the military does there too. So the military, and for its brainwashing, no, they don't brainwash us. What they do is that they retrain us. They don't unlearn us. They do brainwash us. They learn us. They learn us the military way, the military code. Everything is military. Everything is lockstep. Everything. We lose our sense of identity, our sense of self, and we become soldiers. We become a robot, doing what we're told to do without questioning. That's undying loyalty. And another thing I want to tell you, and I'm gonna say good. I'm gonna let them say goodbye, but I want to tell you this. When the police was sitting there and we were talking, too bad. You remember Barney Fife when Goldman said citizen arrest? I said, damn it, I want to make a citizen arrest. I said, I want you to arrest him. I want to have him arrested. I want to make a citizen arrest. Oh, he laughed about that. I said, I'm serious. Folks, I was serious. I really wanted to have Terrell Thomas arrested. And to talk about his, Terrell Thomas hadn't been indicted. None of those people has been indicted. Folks, they swept it up under the rug. Their name ain't even on the paperwork. Wow, isn't that something? How you can commit a felony in this administration, you can do things, and this mayor here gonna look out for. I gotta like how they stick together with it, but not. We gonna punish our children if our children do wrong. Am I right or wrong? Sure. We're gonna punish them. We're not gonna love them, but we're gonna punish them. But folks, I want to tell y'all this too, is that I appreciate him talking to my son, but I don't want everybody talking to my child. But I don't even think any of these young men here would take a switch and beat on my daughter. I don't think they would take a belt or do anything. Well, I have a daughter by one of the Dean girls. Her name is Sharita Dean. Her sister, Millie Ann, my daughter told me that she left the door open or something like that. And so her aunt went and got a switch, two belts, something we got hit with when we were coming up. Went and got a switch, and she said she was crying so bad. And I looked at her. She did had them, them Western switches leave on her. So I was going to be, my daughter had to talk to me to keep me from going over there because, I'm still a person and I'm upset because you don't put your hand on my child. And so I called up to tell her. I said, look here. I said, my daughter told me you whooped her with a switch. Now, I'm calling to tell you that if my daughter do something, tell me. Now, you can, I don't mind any responsible adult or person redirecting my child when it's wrong, and I appreciate that. But if it get to the point where my daughter need corporal punishment, I'm going to be the one to decide that. And if it's decided I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it within the law. Well, what she did was not within the law. I called up just to tell her because I don't believe in really using the court system if we can work it out. I said, look here, you know that woman, that's my niece. I hit her when I get ready and hung the phone up in my face. Boy, I was mad enough to die through the phone. If she'd have told me that and I was standing there, I promise you, I would have put some of the moves I taught you about. The counter punch. That would have been an attack for me, but I didn't. I went to the mercy. See, sometimes you can't deal with ignorance. You can't deal with ignorance, and you can't deal with ignorance with violence. And so what I did is I had Millie Ann Deans arrested. I charged her with assault upon a manor. And so I'm telling y'all that. I'm putting it out there so she'll know. She's not anybody. I don't care who it is. You can be the grandmother. You can be the auntie. You can be any relative of mine. If when corporal punishment has to be done, that's something you got to discuss with me. You cannot beat on my child. I'm not going to allow for that. I'm the first line of defense to my child. I appreciate y'all for listening in. TC, tell the people good night.
Well, I just appreciate, you having me on the show, and it's an honor. Thank you.
I enjoy this kind of show because it educate our minds to change for the best, not for the worst.
Well, Dice Man, you can say something if you want to, but I'm finna tell you this. Thank you for listening, folks. Dice Man, play that song and send us home.